Hello YouTube, Shin Tiger Curl here, that dude in the straw hat, bringing you the next part of my countdown to Pirate Warriors 3 bios. And of course, we're starting with the first of the solo bios with the captain of the Straw Hat Pirates, Monkey D. Luffy. Now, of course, all the information that I will be using for this bio can be found at the One Piece Wikia, which I will leave a link in the description. So if anything you want to learn more about the world of One Piece, just click on that link and do a quick search. So, anyway, without further ado, let's begin. Monkey D. Luffy, also known as Straw Hat Luffy, or more commonly Straw Hat, is a pirate and the main protagonist of the anime and manga One Piece. He is the son of the Revolutionary Army commander Monkey D. Dragon, the grandson of the famed Marine Monkey D. Garp, the foster son of a mountain bandit Curly Dedan, and the adoptive brother of the late Fire Fist Portgas D. Ace and the revolutionary Sabo. His lifelong dream is to become the Pirate King by finding the legendary treasure left behind by the previous Pirate King, Gold D. Roger. He believes that being Pirate King means having the most freedom in the world. He has eaten the gum-gum fruit, which gives the consumer's body the properties of rubber. As the founder and captain of the Straw Hat Pirates, he is the first member of the crew, as well as one of its top 3 fighters. Luffy has a worldwide reputation for causing trouble, challenging the warlords, the Marines, and even an emperor, as well as committing felonies and actions that were deemed threatening by the world government. Additionally, in the majority of these confrontations, he emerges as the victor. He has gained a reputation for being reckless and, in some cases, insane, after causing an incident in Inez Lobby, assaulting a world noble at the Shabaondi archipelago, entering and escaping Impel Down, and joining the Battle of Marine Ford. He is therefore infamous for being the only pirate to not only deliberately attack the 3 most important government facilities, but escaping all 3 of them alive. The additional fact that he punched a world noble with full knowledge of the consequences, as well as his heritage, has caused Luffy to be labeled as a quote-unquote dangerous future element, earning the wrath of Fleet Admiral Sakazuki, and making the Marines among his greatest enemies. These acts, among others, have given his current bounty of 400 million berries, one of the highest past or present bounties in the series. Having a bounty of 300 million prior to his arrival on the Shabaondi archipelago, Luffy is one of the 11 rookie pirates who have been referred to as the 11 supernovas, pirates with bounties over 100 million berries who have reached the red line. He is also one of the pirates widely regarded as the worst generation. Personality. Luffy has 2 dominant traits. Luffy's 2 dominant traits are his apparent lack of intelligence and his utter fearlessness. Luffy can be easily amazed by the simplest of things, such as hermit crabs, but can be confused by the concepts such as by digging a hole right next to another hole may unintentionally fill the other hole. Also, larger concepts, such as when Nami and Chopper try to explain something to him, he will instantly call it a mystery. He likes monsters and will talk to weird creatures, will ask weird creatures to join his crew, as seen in the Thriller Bark arc, asking a talking tree to join his crew. He also has no knowledge of medicine. When Nami ran a high fever, he told her to eat cold food, and later tried to make Zoro better after battling Bartholomew Kuma by pouring sake on him, because Zoro likes sake. When attempting to think of a plan to get off Amazon Lily, while he did manage to make some logical sense on where to look, he seemed to strain himself and noticed that he was going to feel sick from thinking too much. His simple mind actually saved him from Hancock's powers, because he mistook it for a Noro beam, which was used by the pirate Foxy the Silver Fox, which brought out a fear of being slowed down. Though it is later shown that he is simply immune to her powers because of his pure heart. If Luffy finds something he doesn't understand, even if someone explains it in detail, he will call it a mystery thing, like calling dancing powder a mystery powder. One of Luffy's running gags is asking non-humans such as Kami and Brook if they can poop, in which case they usually answer yes. Another running gag is that Luffy's slow reaction time, especially to freezing temperatures. The same cannot be said on the field when he's on the field of battle, though. He has been known to dodge bullets with ease. It has been stated on more than once that Luffy's instinct and behavior is similar to that of a wild animal, like when he knows who he has to fight before he even gets to the battle. Even his fight shows that he relies on his instincts and counterattacks. This complements the way he views the world. He is most often seen smiling, except during a fight where he is forced to use all of his power, and sometimes even then. Luffy also seems to rarely change personality-wise. Because he views the world in a straightforward and simple manner, he is occasionally the only person who can see past events that have taken place and realize the true goal, yet at other times he can fall into the simplest of traps. He is, however, a genius when it comes to fighting, such as when he figured out how to defeat Crocodile's devil fruit power on the verge of death, how to use Soru from sight, developed a number of effective counters against Enel's mantra ability, and most recently learned everything Silver's Rayleigh had to teach him about Haki in a year and a half, even though Rayleigh mentioned that 2 years were too short of a time to learn about Haki. He does have a habit of holding a grudge even in the most dire situations, such as calling Frankie a bastard in the middle of his fight with Rob Lucci, causing Frankie to retort, "Now's not the time to be mad at me," and then refusing to let Crocodile help him escape Impel Down, even when there was no other alternative. However, he tries not to hurt civilians and people he likes, even if they intend to do him harm, preferring to run from them than fight. When drawing him, Oda has said that he tries to make Luffy very straightforward about what he wants to be and how he feels, which is why, out of all the main characters, he has the least number of thought bubbles, since he simply acts and says what he wants to do rather than think it. To complement Luffy's naivete and straightforward attitude, there is a running gag in the series where Luffy can identify similarities on things that have little resemblance, like being able to see the resemblance between Sanji and his wanted poster, or being able to see Spoil as an old man with major runes rather than a zombie, but is unable to see similarities with things with obvious connections, like being unable to tell that Soga King is Usopp, or not seeing through Foxy's pathetic disguises. Luffy's simple attitude and naivete complements during fights, which are often mistaken by his opponent as poking fun at them. Due to this, his opponents lose their cool and charge at him in anger. While he is goofy and reckless, he gets quite serious when anyone is in serious danger, notably his crew, who he considers his family. Luffy has a tendency to unwillingly poke fun at an opponent's most sensitive trait, like calling Buggy Big Nose, Alvita the Fat Lady, and Kureha Old Hag. In most cases, the opponent fails to understand whether Luffy is serious or just playing around during his fights due to his bizarre actions, like Jeep drinking too much water in his fight with Crocodile, or punching out Arlong's teeth and using them as a weapon to bite him. Luffy, however, has maintained that he is always serious during the fights. In most cases, once he starts a fight, he maintains a serious attitude and is only seen laughing once the enemy is defeated or is certain that the enemy will be defeated, like in Buggy's case when he laughed before sending Buggy flying in the air. Every time Luffy defeats an antagonist or an enemy within 1 or 2 chapters, whether it be because of something entertaining or comical happened, he smiles. There has only been one single exception. After his fight with Usopp in Water 7, Luffy did not smile for the longest time in the entire series while not combative. In the storyline, he did not smile for a whole day, but in terms of chapters, he did not smile for 15 chapters. In battle, Luffy has shown signs of intelligence, high tactical and innovative skills. He can easily adapt to hinder situations, such as Mr. Three's candle lock, or Enel's golem paddling into an attack. He can also use the mirror to reflect Foxy's Noro beam attack. During the Marineford arc, Dracul Mihawk mentions that Luffy seems unusually clear-headed by avoiding Mihawk's attacks. Additionally, during his battle with Mihawk, he used Buggy as a scapegoat shield to protect him and move forward to save Ace. Luffy has a habit of saying things with a lot more weight and occasionally wisdom to them than he realizes without thinking or meaning to. Luffy also shows significant leadership skills, which at other times he usually lacks, and therefore has his captain duties done by other crew members. An example of his leadership is usually present at the most dire and serious times, such as in the Water 7 arc, when a portion of the Straw Hat's crew, some of the Galila foremen, and the Frankie family are present. Luffy brings the three together by pointing out that they now have a common enemy and should form an alliance to take back what the enemy has taken. Another time could be when he was taken on the burden of being a captain and does not hold back when dueling Usopp, and restrains himself from calling Usopp back afterwards. Crew members also listen to his orders without question when he is serious, all respecting his position. In the Shabaondi Archipelago arc, Juri Bani comments how not just anyone could order Zoro around, since Zoro seems to be so independent and ruthless, yet he respects Luffy's command when the time calls for it. The one thing Luffy does not allow is someone or something getting involved in another person's fight. At these times, Luffy can be both remarkably restrained during the battles and rage when someone or something outside the battle is involved, especially if it's the person he considers a friend. Luffy showed this early in the series when Zoro fought Mihawk and managed to hold himself and Johnny and Yusaku back until Zoro was defeated. Since then, he has shown it several times, like when Baroque Works sabotaged the Giants' duel on Little Garden, when Crocodile attacked Yuba with a sandstorm in the middle of their fight, when he challenged Aokiji to a one-on-one fight, when he fought Lucci and insisted that Frankie not get involved in their fight, when the Boa sisters threatened to break the petrified form of his saviors, and when he became visibly enraged when Horty Jones, who attacked some of the civilians who tried to halt Noah. He even went so far as to cover Sandersani's back from the citizens of Kuja when it was burning, even though they were trying to kill him, claiming it had nothing to do with their fight. A bit of a running gag is that during battles, Luffy is almost always thrown into situations, either by accident or on purpose, where he cannot fight. When he is in these situations, his crew members are usually fight the other weaker people associated with the main antagonist and defeat them, so that no one is to intrude on their fight. When all the other enemies are defeated, Luffy fights the strongest, i.e. the only one that Luffy can defeat. This happens frequently, such as him being stuck in a cage in Orange Town arc, being put to sleep in the Serp Village arc, getting stuck in a rock and being thrown underwater in the Arlong Park arc, getting lost, seriously injured and resting, or getting stuck in a snake's stomach in the Skypiea arc. Luffy's personality is like that of a child in the sense that he tends to go to extremes. He can either be extremely greedy, and especially in the cases of food, who his crew is, an adventurer, or extraordinarily selfless, going so far as to virtually sacrifice himself to go on and to avenge his friends or protect them. This childish mentality of his allows him to get to the root of the problem and allows him to figure out even the most simplest ways of solving it. Luffy also has an extreme thirst for adventure, which is stated the main reason he wants to become the Pirate King, having the belief that the king is the one in the entire ocean with the most freedom for adventuring. Because of this adventurous nature, he tends to avoid taking the easy way out at times, such as when he destroyed the eternal pose to Nanomanani Island given to him by Robin, Miss All Sunday at the time, stating that he did not want an enemy to decide his destination. He also had no intention of trying to learn what or where One Piece actually is until he finds it himself, and once stated that he would quit being a pirate if his crew tried to find out, not wanting to go on a boring adventure. Luffy has no sense of caution and in fact has been literally known to laugh in the face of danger and walk purposefully into potentially harmful situations with a massive grin. Luffy, for example, when the Straw Hat Pirates approach the Knock-Up Stream and decide to board the Roombar Pirates' ghost ship. Also, when entering Thriller Bark and descending to Fishman Island, Luffy never says goodbye to those he considers friends, in hopes of seeing them again. As a person with the middle initial D, Luffy shares the common trait of not fearing death. He will often state that if he reaches his goal, that's fine, but if he dies along the way, that's fine too. He even smiles when he is nearly executed by Buggy in Lobetown, although he did have a look of shock and surprise in everyone's eyes before this happened, when Sanji and Zoro tried to rescue him. Throughout the series, several characters have stated similarities between Luffy and other D carriers, whether in personality, words, actions, or presence. So far, he is thought to be similar to Jaguar D. Saul by Nico Robin, to Monkey D. Garp by Aokiji, by at least one of the Gorosei and by his own crew, to Monkey D. Dragon by Imperiaro Ivankov, and to Gold D. Roger himself by Smoker, Crocus, Kureha, Gonfall, Shanks, Rayleigh, Kokoro, and the non-canon Raoul. Like all other Ds so far, he is quite a glutton despite having a skinny appearance. He especially loves meat and can eat a fish whole, bones included. And because of this, a running gag of Luffy's is him constantly stealing other people's food with his rubber powers, causing them to yell at him and sometimes hit him. It should also be noted that he becomes more gluttonous over the series, as there are moments when he becomes morbidly obese, though he loses the weight in some way, usually exercise. Also, at the events of Ina's Lobby, Luffy seems to have developed narcolepsy, much like his older brother Ace, only though for a short time. Another running gag is his habit of being amazed by the varying abilities of villains, often yelling out "amazing" with stars in his eyes and around his head. Luffy believes that he is at his coolest when wearing armor. Luffy also seems to have a slight obsession when it comes to outfitting himself with the body in full body armors, and has a habit of wearing one whenever he gets the chance, but every armor that he manages to find and outfit himself with usually ends up destroyed either in battle or by some comic scenario. He also constantly insults his opponents by giving them degrading nicknames, such as calling Gecko Moria Leek or Enel Earlobes. Luffy apparently has no skill with insulting people, often taking either a physical aspect or a unique ability and trying to make it degrading, like calling Zoro Three Sword Style, while everyone was lamenting Vivi's absence, only to be corrected by Usopp. Luffy also has absolutely no talent for lying whatsoever. In fact, more often than not, Luffy would blurt out without thinking what he knows regarding a certain event whenever someone asks something concerning the events that transpired. In contrast, Luffy has a tendency to suck his lips in and turn his head to the side when an attack or technique fails to affect him, such as Enel's various electrical attacks or Boa Hancock's Mero Fruit powers. Luffy never ever kills any of his villains, no matter how cold-hearted they are. Instead, he frequently sends the villain flying, knocking them out or beating them until the point where they're almost near death. Oda explains it is not a question of morality so much as a question of punishing the villains for their crimes. He feels that killing the villains lets them off too easy, whereas he considers letting them live to see their dreams ruined is a far more fitting punishment. However, it is evidently clear that Luffy is not against others completing the final act themselves, as seen when Luffy allowed Law to make his attempt to kill Doflamingo, while making sure Treble does not interfere. Ironically, some people he has defeated become good after their defeat, most notably Wapol, who becomes a rich CEO of a toy factory, though he possibly became evil once again after he created his new kingdom. Another dominant trait of Luffy's is his humble nature. He does not brag about the powerful foes he's defeated in the past, though he does not above claiming that no one has ever beaten him in the past, which is not true, having been defeated many times by Ace and Sabo as a child, twice by Smoker, though non-fatal, twice by Crocodile before defeating him, once by Aokiji, once by Rob Lucci before defeating him, once by Gecko Moria before defeating him, once by Bartholomew Kuma, once by Magellan, and once by Kizaru, all in the past. He seems humble despite having done outrageous acts like defeating warlord-level pirates and issuing an order to burn down the world government's flag back in Ina's Lobby. When Frankie pointed out the latter, Luffy only replied it was nothing to get worked up over, hinting that he only gave the order on a mere whim, for him and his crew were only there to take back a crew member that was taken from them. When Sengoku tried to cover up Gekko Moria's defeat by ordering Kuma to kill the Straw Hat crew, Vice Admiral Garp told him, don't worry yourself, Sengoku. Luffy's not the sort of guy to go around boasting and talking about Moria anyway. Despite his passion for fighting, Luffy generally refuses to fight someone he does not personally consider an enemy, preferring to talk it out over or running away from the confrontation. Over the series, Luffy has become more mature and level-headed, though he only shows this part of his personality when his or his friends are in dire situations, or when someone insults him, calling people like him and their beliefs foolish. Other than that, he still acts the same as he was at the start of the series. Luffy almost never gets irritated with normal people, though there were a few exceptions, like when they seem to have the opposite taste in food as he, or when they ask if they could look at his privates. Luffy also has no problem with other people stretching or playing with his rubber body. However, he does get a little irritated if they're doing so while he's in the middle of eating. Luffy calls every mixed appearance creature he finds, whether the creature is a secondary dominant part. In Gaimon's Island, the dog chicken was referred to as a chicken when it was mostly a dog, the snake rabbit a rabbit when it was mostly a snake, and the pig lion a lion even though it was mostly a pig. This becomes a running gag. Later, when he meets the Bawanawan, he calls them bananas with crocodiles attached to them. Also, after seeing Pierre transform, he continued to refer to him as a horse instead of a bird. And related to this running gag, when on Long Island, he called every animal he thought they resembled rather than the actual species that they were. Luffy's interest in women is a complex matter. In an SBS interview, Oda stated that the reason Luffy acted in an aroused manner when Nami stripped, yet remained neutral when Hancock did so, was that he was with Usopp at the time Nami did so, as Usopp is at his age and is a bad influence on his behavior. He also appears to have little or no romantic interest, having uncharacteristically refused the proposals made to him by Lola and Hancock without a second thought. Ironically, despite his lack of interest in women, he has attracted several along his travels, such as Alvida's admiration, the love of Boa Hancock, and the affections of all the women of Amazon Lily. Luffy is very loyal to his crew and others, and can lose his temper quickly if they are harmed in any way, a trait he apparently shares with the late Pirate King. Luffy will do drastic things to avenge and defend those around him, even if it means breaking his promise to his friends, such as striking Bellamy for attacking Montblanc Cricket's crew and punching a world noble St. Carlos in the face for shooting Hachan, despite promising not to defy the world nobles. Additionally, Luffy believes that all people should be loyal to their friends, and if he sees anyone betraying their comrades, he will stand up for the victims, even if they are enemies. Most notable examples are Captain Kuro killing his own crew, Don Krieg attacking Gin, Boa Hancock petrifying her fellow Kuja tribe members, and Caesar Clown using his subordinates as mere guinea pigs. Luffy has gained a reputation of being extremely reckless and in some cases insane. However, unlike other pirates who gained reputations for being psychotic, like the marine killer Caribou or Bellamy, through reckless and random acts of violence against citizens or authorities, Luffy's reputation comes from him trying to help or save others, especially in the face of authority, though he tends to go overboard. Luffy is shown to admire heroes, though stated vehemently he does not want to be one, his reasoning more or less translating that the definition of being a good hero is being entirely selfless. Ironically, many of Luffy's actions are mostly selfless, with his selfishness mainly revolving around his gluttony and thirst for adventure. This trait leaves everyone he meets to think he's some kind of hero, but not by his own design. However, he easily convinced by Jubei for his plan to become a hero of the Fishman Island with an agreement of meat. Luffy's selflessness often inspires others to side with him as a result, notably among people who are Boa Hancock, Jinbei, and Imperiaro Ivankov, who would not have helped him out otherwise, given their individual beliefs. He also shows respect for things that a person is willing to die for, be it treasure or a secret, to the point where even fighting to protect that which a person would throw their life away for. The most notable action of this is when he protected the Gorgon sister's secret by using his own body to cover the mark on Boa Sandersani's back, even though they were trying to kill him. However, despite his particular traits and habits, with his trademark dim-witted behavior, Luffy's most defining part of his personality is his ability to make allies out of absolutely everyone, including former enemies, villains, and even Whitebeard himself, which is said by Miyagi to be the most dangerous ability in the world. When other individuals heard Luffy mention that he, his crew, and the people they are friends with are comrades, it touched the hearts of those who later are grateful to Luffy and the crew to support them, like Karoo, Vivi, Nefertari Cobra, and Fukaboshi. This also applies to Nami and Chopper, who joined the crew later on. Also, another bit of running gag, Luffy, when talking about money, tells his crew to budget their money, only for them to react when he returns all of it towards feeding him. Another running gag involves Luffy randomly telling someone a secret, such as the identity of his and Ace's father, only to casually ask them to keep it afterwards. He shares this trait with his grandfather. When his adoptive brother Ace was killed at Marineford, the mental strain of watching Ace die in his arms caused him to fall apart into a catatonic state. After waking from this state, Luffy flew into a rage and went on a destructive rampage to vent his grief and anger. Afterwards, Luffy reevaluated himself and came to the conclusion that he was far too naive and was weak and unworthy of becoming Pirate King, falling into a state of depression and self-pity. Some encouragement from Jubei and Rayleigh gave Luffy some renewed courage to continue to pursue his dream. After the time skip, he tells Rayleigh that he will be Pirate King, having regained his confidence to fight for his dream. Prior to the time skip, Luffy displayed a side of himself where he occasionally gets into fights with others over needless issues, i.e. when he nearly got into one with Blackbeard in Mocktown over the matter of quality of the pies that the tavern served. He still has this trait after the time skip, and where he is shown with Momonosuke after he arrives at Dressrosa. However, when Luffy is told to keep a low profile or restrain himself, he will resist his urges to pick fights over small matters. Abilities and powers. Physical abilities. As captain of the Straw Hat Pirates, Monkey D. Luffy has immense physical strength and is capable of lifting large boulders, breaking stone, shattering steel with his bare hands, and pushing apart large buildings and shoulder flipping a very large man. After his strength was further proven when he effortlessly stopped a stomp by Don Quixote do Flamingo, a notably strong man who was twice Luffy's size, with only 1 foot from an angle with no leverage. Additionally, Luffy has always fought the strongest villain of every story arc, except with the Romance Dawn arc. Luffy's sheer physical strength and dexterity is the result of his grandfather's unorthodox training methods, such as being thrown into a bottomless ravine, tied to a balloon, thrown into a forest at night, etc. And he has claimed that he has a punch as powerful as a pistol at the age of 7. His endurance and durability are incredible, taking continuous deadly assaults from opponents that would have normally killed a normal person even the most of his fights, yet still being able to stand up and continue fighting. Luffy possesses tremendous speed and agility and reflexes to match his strength and endurance. In fact, on more than one occasion, Luffy was able to anticipate moves and counter them that would normally be beyond his field of vision due to his sharp reflexes. He is also shown to increase in strength quite dramatically in a short period of time, most notably being the fight against the Minotauros, where the first time it took the combined efforts of Mr. 2, Mr. 3, and Buggy just to beat him, but the next time, Luffy defeated him with a single Gum jet pistol. His vast strength is only exceeded by his enormous willpower, as demonstrated on several occasions throughout the series, most notably of all in the thriller Bark arc, when he managed to take in 100 shadows without passing out, compared to normal humans who can only take in 2 or 3. This willpower lets him survive far beyond what normal people are capable of, as demonstrated when he was poisoned very far beyond what a human was capable of surviving, only living on despite his critical condition through sheer willpower. This is also shown when he survives Imperial Involcop's healing hormones ability, which, even given a slim chance of surviving, had not only survived the endeavor, but made a recovery in 24 hours, when the normal time for the healing procedure is 2 days. This is later shown with Basil Hawking's fortune-telling ability, as despite doing it multiple times, he could never get Luffy's chances of survival to reach 0. He also possesses extraordinary jaw strength, as seen in the Orange Town arc in the manga, where he almost chewed through the metal bars of Buggy's cage that he put him in. In the following arc, he shattered Django's steel chakram with his teeth alone, anime. He also ate the cage that Gecko Moria put him in and managed to give Rob Lucci a small bite wound, as well as break the steel chains used to bind Nami in Frankie's body after the time skip. His greatest trait in this area, however, his greatest feat for this area was when he managed to make Jinbei, who was known to have an extremely high tolerance towards pain, yell out in pain when he would bit the fishman's arm. Luffy is shown to be very agile. Early in the series, Luffy's been able to react to foes much faster than him, like Kuro, Arlong, Bellamy, and Ignale. After learning the CP9 Soru technique to enhance both his strength and speed, he became even more so. After the time skip, he became faster still, being able to dodge attacks even while in Gear 3rd, and even creating enough friction while running to set the ground on fire. Fighting style. Luffy's fighting style consists of adept hand-to-hand combat, supplemented by his physical prowess and the abilities of the Gum Gum fruit. Such skill allows him to hold his own against combat specialists like Rob Lucci. Unlike Zoro or Sanji, Luffy's fighting style is completely improvised. It follows no code of honor, and is so, if necessary, he will attack women or animals, hit below the belt, attack enemies even if they have their backs turned or otherwise unprepared or unsuspecting, use human enemies as human shields, or even bite his opponents. While fighting, Luffy has shown to be highly adept at improvising, and regularly comes up with creative counterattacks and unusual techniques to use against his enemies. This, however, leaves both enemies and allies alike to wonder if Luffy is taking the fight seriously, especially when he comes up with ridiculous and over-the-top moves, like Crocodile when Luffy becomes Water Luffy, which prompts Luffy to respond that he is always serious. When Luffy fights, he relies heavily on instinct, with his instincts, which, interesting enough, are mostly correct. Even as early as the Arlong Park arc, after getting bitten, he managed to escape with his arm still in one piece by slamming Arlong's head to loosen his jaw to get out instead of simply pulling it out. He picked out the real Mr. 3 from a bunch of wax lookalikes on a hunch. He also destroyed Enel's Raigo using the golden ball attached to him as a conductor, but according to Oda, he had no idea what he was doing and acted purely out of instinct. Before learning Kinbushoku Haki, Luffy managed to easily dodge any attack relying on his instincts, as shown in his battle against both Rob Lucci and Ignale. During his childhood, Luffy seems to have become at least competent with a staff, as he's seen using one against a variety of opponents. He also appears to be intelligent enough to understand the fundamental concepts, such as rubber being a natural insulator, which is the reason why he didn't bother ducking out of the way of Ignale's lightning attacks. It would have been pointless because of his immunity. He also was able to develop new techniques, such as Gear 2nd and Gear 3rd, using logical concepts and knowledge of rubber and its properties. While easily noticeable as the least strategic member of his crew, largely due to his tendency to simply barge in headfirst into a battle, often without any kind of battle plan or even knowledge of his opponent's abilities, Luffy is a highly adaptive combatant. He is constantly coming up with ways to keep ahead of his foes, either by taking advantage of his own strength and devil fruit powers, or utilizing his opponent's strengths along with their weaknesses against them. This causes even warriors long considered unbeatable to have trouble keeping up. Also, even if most of the times he acts instinctively, in some cases Luffy is shown to be intelligent enough to give some orders to his crew in the wake of making a strategy or simply making things up as he prefers. This usually ends up being an advantage for the crew. After the time skip, Luffy has demonstrated more intelligence during the heat of battle, as he was able to use Trafalgar Law's powers to an advantage, enough to fool a warlord as cunning as Doflamingo into being swept out so Luffy could land a blow on him. Miscellaneous skills and weaknesses. He is heavily susceptible to any form of hypnotism and doesn't have the sense to turn away. such as Django's power of hypnosis or Miss Golden Week's color traps. He's also easily distracted when something is just that cool, like seeing Chopper's transformations for the first time, the Thousand Sunny's Gao cannon, an energy beam from Pacifista, his wax armor made from Mr. Three's wax powers, or the Iron Pirate Frankie's Shogun, ignoring everything around him. He also has the mysterious and uncanny ability to, while completely sleeping, eat as if he were awake, and even knows when more food is placed on the table. This is probably based purely on muscle memory, since Luffy does his best is fighting and eating. He's shown on several occasions that meat may actually be more of a power source than simply a favorite food for Luffy, as when he becomes exhausted or tired from a fierce battle, he simply eats some meat and is brought back into fighting condition again. Another running gag of the series is Luffy's inability to draw. At the start of the Arlong Park arc, imagining how a fishman would look, Luffy drew a fishman with tentacle-like paws and an anthropomorphic fish with arms and legs and hair, greatly incensing Sanji, who erroneously thought that Nami could be a mermaid and mistakenly believed that Luffy was drawing her ugly. Before the Straw Hats arrived at Water 7, Luffy drew a childish picture of what he wanted the future shipwright to look like. Coincidentally, it resembled Frankie. This inability also extends to the Jolly Rogers. The first Jolly Roger of the Straw Hat Pirates was a bad drawing designed by Luffy himself. He later used a similar bad drawing version of his Roger as a promise marker on the face of Laboon. While also drawing a bad version of Foxy's flag after taking it from him during the Long Ring Long Land arc. Another of Luffy's gags is his inability to do chores. Luffy is a disaster when it comes to doing simple errands, such as when he was a chore boy at the Barati. Everything he tried to do or help with only ended up worse. It got to the point where Zeph gladly allowed him to go after defeating Don Krieg, claiming the damage Luffy could inflict if he could stay would probably put his restaurant out of business. Even a simple errand such as purchasing water ends up with him being chased by the Marines. In fact, it has come to the point where Luffy has had unchaperoned even if he is going to explore, so as not to cause trouble or do anything stupid, and even then it's not guaranteed he would not do anything. Several of Luffy's greatest feats are related to food. When food is involved, he is able to instantly calculate the amount of meals he's missed while sleeping for 3 days after his fight with Crocodile. Since Luffy hated missing meals, he developed a skill to allow him to eat while sleeping, which was first shown after the incident at Ina's lobby. After being poisoned by Magellan and surviving Emperador Ivankov's healing hormone, Luffy was left in an incredibly emaciated state where he was just skin and bones, but was able to eat several days' worth of food and instantly return to normal, with his muscle mass restored, similar to the life return Shoka Kyushu technique used by CP9 member Kumadori. Even though Luffy is a sailor and the captain of his ship, he has no sense of direction. He believes that if one goes north, he has to head to a coldish direction. As a result, coupled with his ability to get stuck in certain situations, he tends to arrive barely in time to fight his opponent. One of Luffy's greatest advantages is people actually tend to underestimate him. Either due to his bounty, his actions, or their own arrogance, his opponents usually take him lightly before discovering Luffy's great strength and determination. Because he is underestimated, his opponents, including the warlords, tend to let their guard down, allowing Luffy to gradually learn and adapt his fighting style accordingly. However, after the global revelation of his heritage and his actions, this advantage fades away as people take his threat seriously based on third-hand information. A second advantage is his unpredictability. Due to his unique, fun-loving, battle-ready personality and his elastic physique, opponents and even his allies are caught off guard by his tactics. This trait has given people the impression of him being reckless, if not insane, and keeps people second-guessing. Though it's never stated, Luffy is able to hear the voices of creatures. During the non-canon Warship Island arc, he claims to sort of hear the voice of Ryu the Dragon. But remember, this is non-canon. It is also mentioned a second time during the Fishman Island arc, when the Sea Kings come to save Noah. One of them thinks Luffy hears their voice, causing them to think back to a young Gold D. Roger, who also heard them in his journey to the depths. Though not a skill or an ability, Luffy is able to have incredible luck. His luck is so great that people around him, like Smoker, Ivankov, Elder Neon, and even his own crew, think they are miracles, or even divine intervention, though in most cases it has to do with his incredible willpower. Examples are surviving the execution done by Buggy and managing to escape Logtown thanks to a freak storm, surviving 2 defeats by Crocodile, the second one being incredibly lucky because the desperate water blast, he splat upwards as Water Luffy when Crocodile grabbed him by the throat, which Crocodile dodged before drying Luffy's body up with his sand powers, eventually landing back and rehydrating him to save his life. Picking out a dud in a basket full of exploding apples, defeating Rob Lucci in battle through sheer willpower and his unbelievable endurance, managing to beat Gecko Moria just before the sun rises, making him cough up all the shadows he stole, accidentally making the man-hating Boa Hancock fall in love with him, having the willpower to survive Magellan's poison and recover from it through pure strength of will and some hormone enhancement when it was said that not even a shred of hope that he would survive, and even antidotes were out of the question. Participating in the Battle of Marineford and surviving, being poisoned by Hyozo, only to discover that he developed a strong resistance to even the deadliest poisons due to his fight with Magellan. However, Luffy's luck has not always held, most notably when using his gears. When using Gear 3rd for the first time against Rob Lucci, Luffy failed to defeat him before Gear 3rd ended, and Lucci was able to take advantage of his weakened form to do major damage. The same thing happened when using Gear 4 for the first time against Don Quixote do Flamingo, but the after effects were longer, leaving it up to several gladiators to protect him from certain death. According to Dracul Mihawk, Luffy has the most dangerous ability in the world, that of turning anyone around him into an ally, including former enemies. Luffy's charisma has earned him many powerful friends and allies in times of need, allowing him to escape the tightest situations. In a conversation between Ace and Vivi, it is shown that Ace is somewhat aware of this ability, as he mentions that Luffy has a strange charm that causes people around him to gather. In fact, his charm is great enough to earn the respect of Whitebeard after talking with him for only a few seconds, and later on earning his complete faith to save Ace as Whitebeard ordered his crew and allies to back him up. He was also able to make Chinjao, a man who hated his grandfather for 30 years and extended his hatred to his descendants, an ally that was willing to have his grandson's Harpo Navy work for him because he restored his head to his original shape. During the 2-year absence, Luffy has, with his bounty raised, he has earned an infamous reputation, which is taken advantage of by Demero Black to bring fear into the hearts of the people of the Shabayondi archipelago, as well as recruit powerful members. His reputation is high enough to be noted by New World pirates, as some were shocked when they found out that Caesar Clown had captured him. During the Corrida Coliseum tournament in Dressrosa, several contestants expressed their fear over his presence. Even Bartolomeo, who casually won Block B. After the time skip, Luffy has grown immensely in power and skill. He has shown new mastery over his Gear 2nd and Gear 3rd along with his Haki, and easily destroyed a pacifista with a single punch in conjunction with his Gear 2nd and Bushushoku Haki, a feat which is shown to be amazingly difficult. Later on, he defeated a Kraken in one hit with a Gear 3rd imbued Haki in a similar manner, and then managed to beat Vanderdecken the 9th while being tied up. Another testament to his power is shown when he defeated Horty Jones while fighting underwater for the majority of the fight and only received one bite wound throughout the whole duration. He is strong enough to survive. He's strong enough to able to destroy Noah, a ship half the size of Fishman Island, while suffering from blood loss, and, as noted by the Sea Kings, would have done so if they hadn't shown up in time, as well as being able to defeat Don Chinjao, a pirate worth over 500 million berries who once fought against Garp. He has also grown so much more durable, as the same attack from Caesar Clown that caused heavy damage to Sanji's body didn't leave any lasting injuries on Luffy. While initially stunned by the attack, he appeared completely uninjured and almost immediately afterwards. While the Straw Hats were on their way to Fishman Island, he showed no discomfort in the range of temperatures given, hot or cold. He is also granted powerful antitoxins in his bloodstream after his fight with Magellan and Impel Down, which granted him high resistance to poison. Hyozo, a poisonous blue-ring octopus merman of the new Fishman pirates, poisoned Luffy during their fight, and Luffy would not have taken any notice if Chopper had not seen the entry point in his arm. The blue-ring octopus possesses one of the real world's deadliest poisons, and the fact that Luffy could shrug it off like nothing is a testament to the strength of his immune system. He is also able to counter against Caesar Clown's own poisonous gases. He is able to resist the H2S, a gas that petrified people with a touch, in Caesar Clown's enhanced form without any sign of being poisoned. Like all Devil Fruit users, Luffy cannot swim. However, unlike other Devil Fruit users, he does not avoid water sports and sometimes will jump into the ocean to save people from drowning, though will drown himself before. Before eating his Devil Fruit, Luffy did not know how to swim anyway, so this made little difference in his capacity. At the time Shanks visited Luffy's hometown, Luffy had determined that he would learn to swim by the time Shanks had left so he could leave with them, indicating that Luffy had not yet learned to swim. He does seem to know that a person cannot eat more than one Devil Fruit, as shown when he said he couldn't eat the Flare fruit. Another of Luffy's amazing skills is his capacity to tame and or befriend creatures in a short amount of time. Several of the examples are, during the Drum Island arc, after saving the life of a parent Lapin that was buried underneath the snow from an avalanche they caused, the Lapins repaid the flavor by holding Wapol and his minions, Chess and Kumamaro, for as long as they could so Luffy could get up the mountain. During the Alabasta arc, he was able to befriend the Kung Fu Dugongs. During the Thriller Bark arc, he was able to tame the Cerberus. Prior to the return to the Shabayondi, he was able to tame all the animals on Riku Kaniya Island. During the Fishman Island arc, he was able to tame and name the Kraken, Shirame. And during the fight in the Kuroda Coliseum, he was able to tame and name the Fighting Bull, Usi. Devil Fruit. Luffy gained extraordinary stretching powers from eating the Gumu Gumu no Mi, literally translated rubber fruit, gum fruit for the English dub, which is one of the rare and legendary Devil Fruits. After consuming the Gum no Mi, Luffy's body became like rubber, giving him the ability to stretch and attack long distances. Having undergone intense training for over 10 years, Luffy is now able to supplement his stretching powers with immense strength, agility, and creativity in combat. His fighting style is largely improvised, and thus relies heavily on his Devil Fruit powers. It should also be noted that Luffy cannot automatically stretch his limbs out, like superheroes with stretching powers, i.e. Mr. Fantastic or Plastic Man. And since his body acts much like an actual rubber band, he has to throw some force into his punches in order to stretch his limbs far out. It should be noted that he has somehow managed to do it automatically, much like the aforementioned superheroes, again after the time skip. However, he has been shown to be able to hold his limbs outstretched for long periods of time, as seen when he reaches his arm out half a mile down to try to retrieve Usopp from falling through the sea clouds. Luffy regularly uses his stretching powers in ingenious and creative ways, as he is able to use the malleability, stretchiness of his limbs to gain tremendous velocity and hit his enemies with devastating impacts and blows. His rubber body is also extremely durable and virtually immune to blunt force attacks, such as bullets. In One Piece, bullets are still round pellets, except for Don Krieg's. Punches and electricity, more often than not, bouncing off his body harmlessly or canceling out the attack. It's even more of a running gag that people find out the hard way that Luffy's made of rubber when they shoot him, only to have their bullets bounce back at them. Another running gag is when Luffy's body is in a dangerous situation that would kill a normal human being, he simply states that he's made of rubber so it's okay, or acts like it's a small problem despite the person trying to kill him. such as being shot in the heart. However, he is still normally susceptible to sharp objects such as swords and knives, as well as non-physical attacks like heat, cold, dehydration, and poison. Though after the time skip, he's been shown to have shown immunity to poison during his fight against Magellan. Not only can he use his stretchiness to increase the range and strength of his attacks, but in some rare occasions he's also used his stretchy limbs to help him restrain or even control weaker opponents like puppets to fight for him. Gears. Gear second is where Luffy uses his legs to pump blood through his body at a much faster rate. Activating Gear second also uses a lot of stored energy in his body. Leaving his body exhausted, his heart rate also increases to levels that are normally impossible. His veins are also able to withstand this since they are made of rubber. In this form, Luffy gains considerable boosts in both strength and speed. During the Inez Lobby arc, Rob Lucci mentions this ability is similar to steroids because the muscles are receiving enough blood to do things otherwise impossible. Rob Lucci also noted that Gear second does damage Luffy's own body and in turn drastically reduces his stamina and lifespan, and his lifespan gets to diminish through prolonged use. Luffy first discovers this ability unofficially in the 7th One Piece movie, where he has a large mechanical arm fall on him. He catches it, and the impact exerts extreme force on Luffy's legs, causing him to unintentionally pump blood at an accelerated rate to perform Gear second, and uses Gum Gum Jet Bazooka, although he simply refers to it as Gum Gum Bazooka, to defeat a gigantic robot battlesuit. After the time skip, it appears that Luffy has gained enough control over his Gear second form that he is able to use it in a single limb rather than his whole body. This is in conjunction with the Bushoku Haki, was able to take out a pacifista with a single punch, something that it took the entire Straw Hat crew to do before the time skip. His strength in this form is also increased to the point where he can knock over a large creature like Wadasumi with a single Gum Gum Jet pistol, breaking one of the giant fishman's teeth. Luffy can use Bushoshoku Haki combined with his Gear second to perform Gum Gum Red Hawk, which causes his fist to ignite in flames. It seems that Luffy had become far more adept with this gear as he has been using Gear second attacks more frequently before the time skip. Gear third. Gear third is where Luffy pumps air into his bones to make them literally gigantic. Unfortunately, only Luffy can do such a thing by using his Gum Gum fruit. By using his already strong physiology, this apparently gives him his arm more mass and a large area to attack with far greater force, but he sacrifices mobility for this strength, as his limbs are now so large that Luffy is having extreme trouble moving unless it's in his Fusen form. Another after effect is that Luffy is reduced to a child-sized proportions, the duration of which is equal to the time he spent in Gear third. Although he's able to use both gears at the same time when he fights to defeat Gecko Moria. The Gear third technique is first hinted at during Luffy's fight with Blueno, and first used but not shown when Luffy is chasing Rob Lucci and Spandam, but is not seen until later until his battle with Rob Lucci. After the time skip, Gear third has vastly been improved upon. Previously, Gear third would only increase the size of a majority of Luffy's arm, thus reducing the speed of the attack in exchange for a powerful impact. However, post-time skip Luffy can seemingly control where the air is allowed to sit in his limbs, where his fist becomes large but allows a large mass to form behind the fist as the equivalent of mass he would have achieving such an arm fully inflated. This allows the majority of Luffy's arm to remain as is, allowing him to thus stretch it, thus allowing him to attack much faster than before his 2-year absence. Luffy is shown to be capable of using Gear third at the same time as Bushishoku Haki, thus allowing his arm to turn black and harden, with his arm in the ocean, which would normally drain a Devil Fruit user's power. While he is still affected by the ocean, he lands a punch that knocks out an attacking Kraken on the way to Fishman Island. Luffy is confirmed to have overcome his weakness of striking shrinking when deactivating this gear, after inflating both arms and using the Gum Gum Elephant Gatling on Noah for a prolonged period and not turning into his chibi form. Note that when Luffy reverts to his chibi form, his clothes, including his straw hat, change relative to his actual size. When Luffy moves his mass throughout his body, however, his clothes remain the same size. This appears to be the same throughout every one of Luffy's masses increases, per the example of Nightmare Luffy form. Gear Fourth. Gear Fourth is a technique in which Luffy developed during the time skip when he fought giant creatures on Riku Kanini Island. He first coats his arm with Bushishoku Haki and then bites into his forearm. Similar to how he activates Gear Third, he blows an incredible amount of air into his body, but this time inflates his musculature structure. In this form, his body proportions become warped and are much larger in size, with his arms, upper torso, and legs coated in Bushishoku Haki. The coating across his torso resembles wispy ends made from flames, and he also gains shading around the inner and outer edges of his eyes. As a side effect, he is incapable of standing still on the ground and instead constantly bounces on the spot. His physical strength and speed are increased to the point where he is able to overwhelm Don Quixote do Flamingo, whereas beforehand both Gear Second and Third were ineffective in the fight. It also shows the great versatility side of the Gum Gum fruit when using the elasticity to form and achieve a form of pseudo-flight and change the direction of his attacks mid-strike to hit a moving opponent, strengthening his attacks in a similar manner to the Bane Bane fruit, which consists of arms and legs like springs. This form, much like Gear Second, seems to utilize the principles of Ryoshiki. It possesses both the high-speed movement reminiscent of Soru and the ability to kick off the air similar to Geppo, creatively adapted to work even better with the body's elasticity, not just bouncing off the air, but allowing his punches and attacks to bounce off his own body. According to Doflamingo, the power of his attacks greatly increases in his form. His durability is also increased, as despite being in a body made of rubber and coated in Bushishoku Haki, as a result of Doflamingo's kicks simply bounce off his body. Another side effect is the limit on how long Luffy can keep Gear 4 active, as noted by both Luffy himself and Doflamingo. Once Gear 4 reaches its limit, it automatically deactivates and Luffy is left exhausted, barely able to move. He is also left unable to use Haki for 10 minutes after using this technique. Haki. Shortly before the 2-year time skip, Luffy had awakened the ability known as Haki, and is one of the few known people to have used all 3 types. Luffy is identified as to possesses this mysterious ability by Blackbeard after their first encounter in Jaya. He's first shown using the ability when he knocked out Dubel's steed, Montobaro, without actually hitting him. Since then, he has shown increased but irregular usage of it, with very little control over it as the series went on. It is only after the Battle of Marine Ford, where he started training with Silver's Rayleigh, that he actually learned about Haki and how to control it. Though it was stated in 2 years was too short a time to learn the basics of it, Luffy had a natural affinity for it, learning it in 18 months. Since returning to his crew, Luffy has been shown to consciously, actively, and easily use Haki in battle. After Ace was sent away to the Marine headquarters, Luffy decided to break into Impel Down and head for Marine Ford. In the process, he ran into an intriguing Blackbeard who noted that Luffy's Haki increased since the last time they met in Jaya. It could be speculated that Blackbeard already noticed Luffy's Haki possession since their first meeting. The 4th time Luffy releases his Haki was at Marine Ford, when he saw Ace was about to be executed. It was then that Ace and the Marines learned of his possession of Haki, and of the Haoshoku type to top it off. This made him even more threatening to the world government, although he was already threatening enough without it. After the Marine Ford War, Luffy decided to train with Rayleigh. Luffy managed to learn the basics of Haki within a year and a half, even though Rayleigh intended to spend the entire 2 years teaching him, meaning that he was either a fast learner once he understood the concept, or he just had a natural affinity for Haki. Rayleigh departed a year and a half later, leaving Luffy to train by himself for the remaining 6 months. It should be noted that Luffy possesses what can be considered a very large amount of haki. Luffy is able to use the Haoshoku haki, a type of haki possessed in 1 in a million people. Luffy used this ability several times in the series, as it was the type of haki that manifested the earliest. The first time Luffy was identified to have possession of this type of haki is when he stopped Boa Sandersani from smashing a petrified Marguerite, although he first showed the possession of this type when he scared off Duval's bison steed Montabaro. When he was protecting Bentram from being attacked by wolves back in Impel Down, level 5, he released his haki unconsciously. During the war in the Marine Ford, he also used another burst of Haoshoku haki when he saw Ace was about to be executed, when he knocked out a lot of individuals, both Marines and pirates. This made it clear that Luffy, setting aside his identity as Dragon's son, is also a serious threat as a pirate just by possessing it. Before training under Rayleigh, Luffy had limited to no control over this ability and didn't seem to realize he had it, but used it on instinct when it seemed he was most needed, and could still use it even when extremely injured. With his training, Luffy has demonstrated the ability to focus the Haoshoku haki, knocking out a small group of people with a quick glare without affecting anyone else. A possibility of Luffy's Haoshoku haki is that he can tame large animals, as he was capable of taming all the animals on Riku Kanina Island, and tamed the Kraken, which he used to great success for a very short time. Up until the fight with the new fisherman pirates, Luffy only used Haoshoku haki when he needs to get people out of the way with minimal damage. The true extent of Luffy's haki is seen when he knocks out 50,000 of Horty Jones's men. During the fight with Chinjao during the Kuroda Coliseum tournament, he unleashes 2 powerful waves of Haoshoku haki when they clash fists. This haki became Luffy's specialty. Kenboshoku haki. Since training with Rayleigh, Luffy has gained the slight proficiency in Kenboshoku haki, allowing him to tell what an opponent intends to do. He's able to effortlessly dodge a bullet shot point blank by Demero Black, as well as laser projectiles fired from a pacifista, commenting that the attack was slow. His proficiency with this skill was truly shown when he was able to completely avoid Horty Jones's Yamabusama without an effort. Luffy also displayed ability to discern Caribou's presence within Ryuga Palace, even asking Zoro and Sanji if they can sense it too. At Punk Hazard, he was able to sense the Yeti Cool brothers attacking Nami and Chopper. He also was able to sense Rebecca had no killing intent towards him even when she was attacking him. During the Kuroda Coliseum Battle Block C Battle Royale, he was successfully able to dodge all the weapons Jin Argon threw at him. Busho Shoku haki. Luffy also seems to have mastered Busho Shoku haki, which has been shown to darken his body or parts of it and harden it. This was shown to be able to use to easily defeat a pacifista with a single haki imbued punch in conjunction with his Gear 2nd. He is also able to use a Gear 3rd in conjunction with this, being able to knock out a giant beast such as the Kraken easily, despite the great disadvantage of being underwater, where his power is considerably weakened. Another demonstration of this haki is when he used it in his fight with Horty Jones, where he was able to harden his arm, leg, and forehead for both strong offensive and defensive measures. The defense of his Busho haki, however, is not absolute, as during his fight with Horty Jones, where it was revealed that while it was good for reinforcing his near immunity to blunt force attacks, it is currently not strong enough to defend against sharp objects, such as Horty Jones's shark teeth. After the air bubble was produced and merged with Noah, Luffy used the Busho haki combined with Gear 2nd to perform the Gum Gum Red Hawk, which causes his fist to ignite in flames and create an explosion after it hits its target. Luffy is later seen being able to knock back a Logia like Caribou at a considerable distance, something he was never able to do before the time skip, without exploiting the Logia fruit's weakness. he was able to grab Smoker's arm in his smoke state as if it was solid, and was able to grab and punch Caesar Clown in his Logia state. And that is it for my bio of Monkey D. Luffy. Wow, this was a long one. And my voice is sore, but I hope this was enough information to satiate your want to know more about him. I was going to go into Luffy's history, but I don't want to really spoil anything for those who want to get into the series. So I'm just going to do this for the rest of them, just introduction, personalities, and powers, just so you can understand. So thanks for listening to this hour-long rant of mine. So if you like what you see, link, comment, subscribe below. Got any questions, comments, or just want to talk about Luffy in One Piece, leave them below. I will answer them as quickly as I get them. If you want to support the channel, just click an advertisement or two. It literally just takes a second out of your day. Or if you want to donate directly, the tip jar is up there. Drop $1 in the bucket. I could use a taco. So, next time on Countdown to Pirate Warriors 3 Bios, we'll look at the first person Luffy ever recruited into the crew, the Pirate Hunter, Roronoa Zoro. So until next time, it's Shin Tiger Curl, that dude with the straw hat saying good day, and I could really go for some meat right now.